we really are called to be equipping us to be living out our gifts as disciples in Christ and to be growing in these different spheres of life as disciple-making disciples. So I've known these guys for many years. They were part of this launch team. They weren't married. They were kind of single, dating or whatever as we started this church. And through a lot of different things, I've seen these guys live in and through and be encouraged in these spheres of life. So I'm going to ask these guys some questions, and you guys can just answer what's on your heart and things, and it's going to be fun to hear this kind of lived out in real ways. So, Jacob, you can start. As you guys have been in a Harvest community all the way through since this has started. What are some ways that you guys have seen your Harvest community function in doing life in community with each other? And what's that meant for you and Grace as a couple these last few years?
Yeah, so we have consistently met with the Brumels, their Harvest community group, since the beginning. And it's been awesome. They really feel like our family in really awesome ways. When we meet on Wednesdays, we have food, and we talk about our lives, and we share prayer requests. And then we start to do discussion questions and Bible studies, but most of the time is really just talking with each other. And that's been so special for us because that has been a really good place for us to be known. It started out with, we were probably the youngest by over 10 years with that initial group of people. So it's cool to really see and hear things about people's lives who are steps ahead of us. You know, at the time we had just started dating for about a year or so, and all these people had kids, they had, careers, or were retired. And so hearing more about their lives and just kind of getting wisdom from them was really a cool opportunity for us. And at this point now, it's just really being with our friends, with our family, and allowing ourselves to be known, being vulnerable, sharing prayer requests, and being able to pray for other people in really special ways, which has then transferred into just our daily lives, wanting to meet with these people, hang out with them, meet one-on-one, go play disc golf or something like that, and just talk about our struggles, our lives, and really be vulnerable with each other.
That's awesome. So, these guys are just living it out, life in community, and it has shaped and molded their lives in beautiful ways. Anyways, so Grace, as we go into the next sphere, again, we're going to dig into these. We're hitting these kind of brief today as a big overview. But Grace, when we think of life on life, I know that you've been involved in D groups, right? Gal meeting with another gal. I know, Jacob, you too, with guys. But Grace, you've been on kind of both sides of the coin, where you've been a gal who's allowed some other women to pour into you in your times of need and disciple you. You've also discipled others and encouraged them in their walk over the years. What would you say for you, Grace, as you've lived out in community, but as you guys have leaned into these life-on-life relationships, what has that meant for you? How have you personally grown in those things? And how have you personally seen God use you in meeting with others as well?
So, man, where to start? I grew up in the church, and I think it's easy as a church kid to do all the things and be completely unknown. So I think us starting at Harvest View about 4 years ago maybe was the first time as a couple where we're like, wow, we need this. We need people. We were kind of in a season in our relationship where it was do we stay together? Do we not? What does the Lord have? So I think Harvest View was the first time where we were like, okay, we're going to dive in. We want people to know us. We want to know people. We want this to be our family. And so, through the Brumels group and then discipleship, I meet with Casey Brumel. I've just had people really come alongside me and speak wisdom. I went through some really tricky health stuff over the last couple years, and, it was my family who lives in town, absolutely, but it was our church family who, were the people that came alongside and said, what do you need? How can we help? We got married and we moved into a house that had some problems, and so they moved us into that house, and then they quickly moved us into a different house, and, they were the people that we could call on. And Casey right now is the woman in my life who I look to and say, oh my gosh, what do I even do in this situation? Or how do I handle this at work? Or, I'm feeling this. Is this a good thing to feel? yeah, and then I've had the opportunity to, meet with other people as well, and try to use the wisdom I've had from other women to love on some other people. So, yeah, I think it's exactly what the Lord would have for us is walking out life like the disciples did with Jesus. And some of the life on life, I think, is like Casey makes me go run with her at 6 a.m. at lunch loops, and that's doing life together too, is enjoying the beautiful things that the Lord has created. It's not just like, sitting and going through a book. Sometimes it's, going over and having a game night with friends or, something like that. So.
Real quick, so how is it different? We'll go to the next one here in a second, but in the life on life, how have you seen it be different in whatever side of the coin you want to talk about, you and Casey or you and some other gal that you've meeting with? How is it different than the life in community? Like, how is God, describe how it can be different. So some of us might be in community pretty well, but maybe none of us have had like that one-on-one relationship with somebody where we're really being spurred. Like, what's the difference there that you've seen?
Yeah, I think it feels like in our Harvest community, we're known as a couple, maybe more so. And so, there's intimacy in that with walking out with other families. But the one-on-one D group is really a chance to just know someone for who they are, straight across the table. I think I feel a little bit more freedom in a D group one-on-one to ask the questions, to doubt, to wonder, to be curious. And I feel comfortable to do that in a Harvest community, but I think it's just a different space. There's one person who you're able to just to be with and to hear from. And I think the Harvest community, in discipleship, we're also talking through like the sermon and trying to, encourage each other and pray for each other. But there's always just not the time also. For the D group, it's like you have the time one-on-one to just really go deep with each other.
Yeah. That's awesome. So final sphere, guys, and it's fun. I know there's a lot of stories you guys could share, and we're going to be hearing many more testimonies of stories of either groups of folks or folks individually themselves that are living on mission as they grow in this sphere of life on mission. But give us a couple examples of right now and what you guys have done in the past as a Harvest community and or as individuals. Jake, I know at work right now you got some life on mission stuff going on as a firefighter. Maybe you can start, Jacob. How are you living on mission right now in your job? And then maybe Grace could share what you guys have done as a community in the past with some things. Just what does this look like for you guys, life on mission?
By no means do I do it super well. But yeah, right now I have a cool opportunity being a new guy to kind of present myself not just as, a firefighter or whatever job I have, but as a believer, as someone who basically is a man of faith. And so something I've been trying to do is as I get to know people, ask them, like, do you go to church? What do you believe? Maybe we go on an interesting call and I say, what do you think about that in relation to eternity or something like that? Really, it's very difficult to do, and I don't do it all the time by any means. And sometimes it's taken kind of getting to know people and being more comfortable with them and becoming friendly with them. That's such an awesome opportunity to love people, is just to be their friend. And like Matt was saying earlier, we spend a lot of time with our coworkers, with the people we work with. So might as well be friends with them and beyond that, love them as their eternal souls. That's we all obviously think that's important. We're all here this morning, so we care about our eternal lives. So just having that mindset at work, I think, is pretty powerful. There are actually a lot of believers that work at the Grand Junction Fire Department, which is very unique for just any job at all. So I've been able to do Bible studies with people. The morning we get off shift, a group of us are doing Bible studies and trying to invite people just to take the experiences that we have at work and relate them to Jesus and his work for us. So that's been really cool, something that the Lord is really working in, that I feel like I'm not really putting in any effort, and there's been a lot of fruit that's come from that. With especially some of the younger guys on the department that are really either they grew up in the church or they're searching out for meaning in their lives, and it's been a cool way to see some fruit from that, to be able to be vulnerable with people and hear people say, I've never told anybody this, or I haven't talked about this in a really long time, but just feeling comfortable doing that with each other has been really, really cool. Very blessed by that.
Yeah, we've done a lot of things as a huddle group, or community groups, excuse me. The name keeps changing. But I think the clearest thing that comes to mind is I think we had maybe only been meeting a year in our community group, and I just through kind of the prayer request time was sharing that I was working at St. Mary's ER at that time and saying, wow, there's so much darkness there, there's so much suffering, and unfortunately, the nurses, I felt like, were suffering. The staff is suffering just as much as the patients sometimes. There's so much darkness. And so as I was kind of sharing this, a couple of the people in our Harvest community were just like, wow, okay, let's do something about that. How can we make people feel loved? How can we step in and show appreciation? And so we ended up making a bunch of boxes and putting together snacks and some verses, and got to share it with all the nurses at the ER. And it was just such a blessing to my heart that as I was just sharing how I was feeling, these people in my life who do know me and were knowing how I felt were just like, wow, let's step into this as a group. Let's take this head on. Let's care for people. So that's one of the things that comes to mind.
That's awesome. Hey, can we give them a hand for sharing this morning? Sometimes it's hard to get up here and share your heart, and I'm excited. We're going to be having many more testimonies like this throughout October, but also as we continue to gather, I think just hearing testimony of each other, of living out as a disciple, making disciple, is very important. So I'd like to invite the worship band to come on up, and we look forward to continuing through this. And but guys, as we come to respond, I ask us, how are these spheres of life in our lives? And I hope this isn't a question of condemnation, but of just encouragement. How are we growing as a disciple making disciples?